Welcome to the 60 Plus podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. How are you today, Janet?
I'm good.
You
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, I'm good. It's a rainy day, but
Another rainy day. I think last week it was rainy
it's
too.
not bringing me down. Rainy days and Mondays. No,
It's not even Monday.
I know. That's why it's not bringing me down.
Okay. And we're in our new podcast studio.
Yes.
So
loosely terminology there.
Well, it's a different location, so we're
Yes.
getting used to the lay of the land here.
Yeah, we're moving up in the world here.
Are we? Well,
yeah, we went from
first floor to the second floor.
Exactly.
What are we talking about today, Janet?
Well, today we have a guest. We have a guest speaker we're very excited about. Art has joined us today. And
Welcome, Art.
Yes.
Oh, hi, guys.
Thank you for being here.
What are we going to talk about with Art?
Well, it's a very important subject. You're supposed to say, what is it, Joe?
What is it, Joe?
I don't know. I forgot. No, it's Medicare.
Medicare.
Yeah. So
Well,
how to navigate it, how to, get started. It's 60 plus. You're going to be facing into it. Actually, you've gotten close to it.
we're all getting closer to it.
Closer to it.
Yes,
Joe.
that's true. And some of my friends are even closer. And they were talking about how much preparation they had to do, like learn about it. And I
Right.
said, I don't feel like doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin, quite frankly. So I think today's guest, Art, is going to be very helpful in that regard and find the ins and outs of Medicare.
All right, Art, Medicare. What is Medicare?
Medicare is a federal program that helps people meet their health insurance needs when they get to be 65. The thing is, there's so much confusion about Medicare.
There is. I'm confused.
And the people that come to see me to figure it out are bombarded with all the commercials. You know,
Right,
those
all
commercials,
the
Joe
ads.
Namath on the air all the time. It's been
J.J.
for
Walker.
years. All of those.
Yeah.
They do nothing but serve to confuse people. So when they come to see me, they're often saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And it's not the kind of thing that it's easy to read about.
Right.
Reading about Medicare is not exciting reading.
No, I would probably end up napping.
They often come to see somebody like me, a Shine counselor. We are also a federally funded program to help people navigate
Okay.
treacherous waters of getting started with Medicare.
What is Shine?
SHINE is an acronym. It stands for Serving the Health Insurance Needs of Everyone. Many of us are attached to senior centers in the area. So if you call a senior center and you feel like you need help with how to figure out Medicare, they often will be able to book you an appointment with a SHINE counselor.
Okay.
And that's what I do. So anyway, there is a lot to this, but I think I can sort of strip it down to its essentials,
All right.
what people need to know. And first of all, a lot of the confusion stems from all the letters that people talk about. Medicare A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
Let me simplify that for
Please.
you.
Okay.
Medicare A, what's often called original traditional Medicare, is A and B. A is hospitalization coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the hospital, Medicare is going to pay 80% of your hospital bills when you're enrolled in Medicare. Medicare Part B is everything that happens outside the hospital. Doctor's visits, lab work, physical therapy, all those kind of things are Part B. A is free as long as you've worked 40 quarters in your life, 10 years.
Mhm.
Part
Mhm.
A is free.
Okay.
Part B is not free. Part B, you're going to be charged a premium based on your income. And there's a chart that tells you based on your tax filed gross income as to what your premium payment will be.
So that's like regular health insurance. You're paying a premium.
For part
Part
B,
B.
yes.
And so they look at income. If it kicks in at 65 and you take it at 65, are they looking at your income from the previous year?
Yeah, good question. So they look back 3 years.
Oh, they
They
do.
do look back and they have your tax information. They know a lot about you.
Right.
Matter of fact, you enroll in Medicare through Social Security. Medicare is part of Social Security.
Mhm.
So obviously, Social Security knows everything about your income.
Yes.
But that's one of the areas. A lot of times when people are getting to that retirement age, their income is going to change pretty dramatically, sometimes within a year. Well, Social Security is somewhat sympathetic to that. And if you can demonstrate to them that, I might have been making X number of dollars, but it's going to be quite a bit less,
Mm-hmm.
You can fill out this government form. All forms have a number, SSA something or other. You're going to fill out that form and you can document that your income is changing and they'll adjust your premium.
Okay.
Your premium is actually called another acronym. We got lots of acronyms. It's called an IRMA, IRMA, Income Related Medicare Adjustment. And an
Mm-hmm.
IRMA, they'll set your IRMA based on what you can demonstrate your income is going to be.
Now, when they look at income, are they looking at earned income, or are they looking at rental income? Are they looking at whatever,
Well,
Social
yeah.
Security?
I'm not an accountant, but I
Right.
can tell you that, like, for instance, they're not going to look at, like, a house that you own, but they are going to look at things like Social Security, pensions, if you're still working a part time job in your
Mm-hmm.
retirement, if you have investments like 401ks that you're taking distributions
Mm-hmm.
of, that's considered income. They'll do their calculations as to figure out what that income is. They don't look at assets. If you own stocks, bonds, things like that, and you're taking distributions, that becomes income.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they look at to make that a decision about an IRMA. And people's IRMAs can change over the course of their retirement.
Okay. But so it sounds like it could be pretty pricey, though, depending on what
Well,
your income
a
level
base
is.
level right now for somebody for Part B, the sort of the base level that the vast majority of people fall into is like $174 and change a month. For
Okay.
Part B. Part A is free. Part B would,
Right.
but it goes up from there.
Right.
High earners could be paying $500 or $600 a month toward Part B
Okay.
premiums.
All right. So if Part A is covering 80% of your hospitalization, what happens if you're hospitalized for an extended period of time, that 20%?
That is the question that people get most confused about. So when you have A and B, both of them cover 80%. Go to a doctor, if the bill's $100, which is unheard of today, but if it was, you'd pay $20, right?
Right.
Well, the reason they mostly come to us, a Shine counselor, besides figuring out how do you actually sign up for Medicare, is how do you supplement Medicare? Because if it's only 80% and you don't have a supplement, you're going to be on the hook for 20%.
And
So there,
there's no cap on that.
no, there's no cap on
Okay.
that.
So that could be significant.
A significant couple of weeks hospitalization could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So, but people almost always supplement Medicare, and then I help them with it. There's different strategies for and pros and cons of each strategy. But how do you supplement original traditional Medicare A and B?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to pay as little as possible. You also need to get your prescription drugs covered. Medicare A and B doesn't cover prescription drugs. You
Right.
need to get separate insurance for prescription drugs. And that is where the commercial world of insurance bombards people with commercials about call this number, we'll take care of everything. You'll get so much
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And that's what causes a lot of confusion and people to make bad decisions where at some point in the middle of the year, they're saying, but I just got hospitalized. Now I have a huge bill on my desk for $5,000 or $6,000. But the commercial told me it was free.
Right. Right.
It is not free.
Let's break that down. And that's called Medicare Advantage.
Well, okay, so there's two strategies to supplement original Medicare. One is Advantage plans, and
Mhm.
that's what you hear all the commercials about. That's what the insurance industry wants to sell. That's what's most profitable, obviously, for them because a client who buys an Advantage plan is going to be required to share in some of the cost.
Right.
And all Advantage plans, no matter what they say on TV, they'll promote is this Advantage plan is $0 a month premium. That sounds great. It sounds too good to be true. The real cost of an Advantage plan is going to be the sum total of all of the co-payments you pay when you use services, going to see a doctor, have a test, get hospitalized, you're going to pay these co-payments, and payments toward what's called a maximum out-of-pocket deductible. So all the Advantage plans set what's called a maximum out-of-pocket deductible, and they range from about a low of $2,000 can be as high as
And
$10,000.
this is an annual out-of-pocket expense.
Annual. And since they don't promote that because it doesn't help sell the Advantage plans, you have to ask, or you have to look at the fine print to see what's that maximum out-of-pocket deductible. And that's where people get these unpleasant surprises because they were thinking, hey, I'm not paying a monthly premium. They told me it was free. Nobody ever told me about this deductible, and nobody wants to read about insurance. It's hard to read about. So the surprises happen.
Mm.
All Advantage plans means you're enrolling in a network of providers. They're either HMOs or PPOs. By
Okay.
definition, an Advantage plan is an HMO or a PPO.
Okay.
If it's an HMO, it's a very restrictive network of providers. You got to see the people in their network, and if you don't, they don't pay for it. It can also be a PPO. PPOs give you greater flexibility. You can see more people, not endless. You can't go out of state. But when you do that, when you go outside the immediate network, you're going to pay a little bit higher percentage toward that maximum out-of-pocket deductible
Mm-hmm.
because you went outside the immediate network.
Okay.
So they might have an in-network deductible and an out-of-network deductible. One could be $6,000. The other one could be $8,000.
Okay.
The other thing about Advantage plans that people kind of like is that when you buy an Advantage plan or enroll in an Advantage plan, you're going to get your prescription drugs covered with that enrollment. It's bundled together. It's not that it's necessarily cheaper, it's just ease of enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So Advantage plans come with drug coverage. When you enroll, you're going to get your drugs covered as well. That's one strategy to supplement original Medicare A and B. The other strategy is to enroll in what's called Medigap supplements. And these differ pretty dramatically from Advantage plans.
If I'm starting in Medicare, am I obligated to flip that switch? And if so, at what time?
That's
do I
another
need to-
real big source of confusion. So you're eligible, if you've worked 40 quarters, you're eligible to enroll in Medicare as early as 65, no earlier, unless you're disabled. Disabled folks who are on Social Security disability get enrolled in Medicare automatically after being on disability.
Okay.
But for the rest of us, 65 is the age. But not everybody retires at 65. If you're still working and you have insurance through work, there's no reason for you to enroll in Medicare. And you are allowed to delay enrolling in Medicare because you have other equivalent insurance. Now, if you didn't have other equivalent insurance and you don't enroll, this is people come in and they're freaked out. They say, I was talking to a friend and they told me you can get penalized if you don't enroll in Medicare. There's some truth to that. But if you're working and you have other insurance, either through a spouse who's working or yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you can delay enrolling. But if you don't have other equivalent insurance, from the time you no longer have that and you're 65, you have 8 months to enroll in Part B of Medicare. If you don't, you'll be penalized. It amounts to roughly a 10% penalty toward your ultimate premium you're going to pay
Mm-hmm.
for every year you did not enroll.
Mm-hmm.
10% per year.
10% per month. Like say your
No,
enrollment
per year that you didn't enroll.
for every year you didn't enroll, they're going to tack on 10% to that monthly premium.
That's stiff.
Oh, wow.
It's stiff when I see somebody come to me who says, I didn't know.
Right.
And they said, but I wasn't sick and I didn't care and I didn't know. And they haven't done it for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the penalties. There's also a penalty if you don't enroll in your drug coverage within 2 months
Oh,
of
okay.
when you no longer have that equivalent drug insurance, and you'll be penalized 1% for every month you didn't enroll.
Oh,
And
wow.
that much more commonly happens. People will get to that age and they'll say, I'm on no medications. Why do I want to pay for drug
Right,
insurance?
right.
And then they show up 10 years later and they've got 10 times 12 is 120% penalty on top of a kind of average premium for drug insurance that Medicare sets as that
Yeah,
annual
that just
premium.
doesn't seem right. So it's like it doesn't behoove you to stay
And
healthy.
it doesn't matter. You can't say I didn't know.
Right.
It does not
Yeah.
matter.
Ignorance is no
It's
excuse.
no excuse. And it's
So-
for life.
So I have a question about if you're insured, so you said if you're still on your employers or your spouses, what if you're sole proprietor, you have an LLC established and you have your own private insurance? Does that account as a
Yes, it can, but you really have to check with Medicare to be careful to make sure they consider it to be equivalent
equivalent?
insurance,
Okay.
because there's all kinds of little insurance things that they might say, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. Another thing that doesn't count that fools people is Cobra. If you're
Mm.
enrolled in Cobra, that does not count toward allowing you to delay enrolling.
Wow.
And for people that may not know, Cobra is if you left an employer and they're required to offer insurance, they had insurance, they're
Yeah.
required to offer insurance for a
Right.
period
If
of
they
time
let you
afterward.
go.
Which you
Yeah,
usually pay yourself, and it's
correct.
expensive. So it's a lot of people want to get off Cobra. It's expensive and get on to Medicare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I read something somewhere that it matters how many employees are at the company.
It does, but the only reason that matters is it determines the cost sharing between the work insurance and Medicare. That who pays first, who's the payer of first, but otherwise it doesn't matter. You can, again, if you have other equivalent insurance, you can delay enrolling. Now, what I often tell people is when you get to 65 and you're still working and you're paying into work insurance, you can enroll in Part A, and you might as well
Because it's
because it's
free.
free. And your company certainly will be thankful that you did that, because say you get hospitalized,
Hmm.
they'll cost share the insurance. So I always counsel people, make sure you check with your employer, your human resource department, or whoever's managing that function at the place of work. They have expectations or guidelines as to what they'd like you to do.
Mm-hmm.
But bottom line is, as long as you have other equivalent insurance, you can delay enrolling in Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to
Okay.
be on the safe side, what date should I mark in my calendar prior to or
Turning
around my
65,
um,
or
attaining
yeah,
65?
yeah.
Yes.
You can enroll anytime 3 months before your birthday month.
Okay.
Whether you're enrolling in just Part A, because you're going to continue with work insurance, or you're going to enroll in A and B, you can go to the Social Security, either go to an office, call them, or the most streamlined way to do it is to go
Online.
online,
Mm-hmm.
create an account at Social Security with a username and password, and then follow the links to enroll in Medicare, either A or A and B, depending upon your work situation.
Mm-hmm.
3 months before. Your initial enrollment period for Medicare is 3 months before your birthday month, continuing through your birthday month until 3 months after. It's when you don't do it in your initial enrollment period that you might be forced to wait to another period to enroll. Say you turn 65, you're still working, but 3 months later you decide you're going to quit. You can then enroll in Medicare then.
Now, if you enroll for Part A and then you don't enroll in Part B,
You're delaying it.
but you go past the date that you were supposed to have enrolled.
Well, a lot of people will enroll just in Part A because they still are working and have insurance.
Mhm.
There's no reason to be paying into Part B and be paying into your work
Got it.
insurance.
Okay.
And that's called delaying Medicare. And it's a very, very typical strategy that people employ when they get to 65, but they're still working. They're delaying it. And now, when they know they're going to depart work, a few months before they're going to do it, then they're going to go back to Social Security and they're going to say, now I want to enroll in Part B to become effective literally the day after you no longer have that other equivalent insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a transition that's smooth, no gaps of coverage.
Hmm.
That's a pretty typical path for people.
Mm-hmm.
They enroll in A, they get a card that says you have Medicare Part A, and they're delaying it. It might be a month later, it could be years later when they finally stop working and no longer have other equivalent insurance.
Okay.
Then they go back, enroll in B, they'll get a new card, and the new card will say you're now enrolled in A and B with
Okay.
effective dates for each, and they might not be the same effective date.
Okay. So just as a point of clarification, even though it's through the Social Security office, I do not have to be taking Social Security to get on Medicare.
Correct.
Okay.
Two separate decisions. If you are collecting Social Security when you go on Medicare, your Medicare Part B premium will be deducted from your Social Security benefit,
Oh,
whatever it's going to be. They'll just take it out, that
Like
170.
your employer did with your health insurance
Exactly
with your
right.
paycheck.
But if you're not collecting your Social Security benefit and you go on Medicare, you'll be billed, and you'll be billed quarterly by Social Security for your Part B premium.
do they take Venmo?
I don't know the answer.
Oh,
They'll do direct deposit stuff. People will pay a bill that they send that Social Security sends out.
one thing we're talking about going to online and doing this. I want to make sure people know. Go to ssa.gov.
Yes, not
If you
.com,
not
not
.com.
.com.
If you Google Social Security, you're going to get a bunch of ads ahead of it, and they'll look like they're Social
Oh,
Security.
it purposefully look like it.
Yeah,
It's very
it's kind of
deceptive.
deceptive.
Um, you will be inundated with solicitations if you go to .com.
All right,
Mhm.
ssa.gov.
Or you can call a Social Security office.
All right,
Or visit them.
It's
Yeah.
a little harder to visit.
or visit a Shine
Since the
volunteer.
pandemic. Going in face to face is a little more challenging some
Okay.
places. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
What did you say about Shine?
Go see a Shine counselor, or
Yeah, we'll
contact your senior center.
Right. And, in some circles, we're a well hidden secret. People don't know about us, I mean, but the average person I see is very, very confused about all they see and read online and all they see on TV.
All right, we were about to talk about Medigap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's go
I'm
there.
glad you kept that thread.
Yes.
So the other way to supplement Medicare is a Medigap plan, very different than an Advantage plan. Medigap plan, first of all, no networks. You're not signing into a network. Every doctor's an independent contractor with you. If you're in a Medigap plan, you can see any doctor you want anywhere in the country. Not
Okay.
out of the country, but anywhere in the country. As long as they're willing to see a new patient and don't have like a concierge practice. Some doctors have these concierge practices where you got to
Only
pay.
take
Yeah.
cash, and they take
but-
Venmo, I believe.
But otherwise, all doctors will accept that insurance. You'll let them know you have Medicare and you have a Medigap plan. And all the same usual suspects sell Medigap plans. The Blue Crosses, the Tufts, the Humanas of the world sell that insurance. They don't advertise this insurance, but they have it.
Mhm.
Okay, another difference. No copayments. You'll never be asked to pay anything, $10, $20, $30 when you show up at an office. There are no copayments. There are standardized deductibles. All Medigap plans have the same deductibles depending upon the level of Medigap plan. This is where it gets a little complex, and usually I'm showing somebody a document when I'm talking about this.
Right.
But there's different levels of Medigap, and the only thing that distinguishes one level from another is the premium price, and it's not $0 a month,
Mhm.
and what deductible applies to it. So there's one level of Medigap plans that have no deductibles at all, and you pay the most for that. There's another that has one deductible for Part B office visits, and that this year amounts to a grand total of $240. That's it. You meet that deductible, you do nothing else other than pay your premium. And then the less costly Medigap plan has two deductibles. It has that Part B deductible for $240, but it has a hospitalization deductible as well. And if you're hospitalized, you might have to share in the cost. This year, it's up to $1,630 toward the hospitalization.
Per year.
Actually, it's per 60-day period.
Oh,
So,
Go per visit.
no,
per
you go to
visit?
the hospital on January 2nd, go home on the 5th, but you go back on February 1st. There's not a new deductible.
Okay.
If you go get hospitalized on January 2nd and you go back in August, a new deductible can apply.
Okay.
All right.
okay. How can somebody find out the premiums that they would be paying on a Medigap plan?
Well, certainly if they came to see a Shine counselor, I would be laying in front of them this beautiful spreadsheet that shows the levels, the prices, how to contact them, what the deductibles are, and letting them know the pros and cons of each level.
We frequently talk about how people that are 60 plus, sometimes when they're retired, they travel more. They may travel out of the country. How does all of this play into travel?
Within the country, if you're in a Medigap plan, you're covered anywhere you go.
Okay.
And Medicare A and B is the Medicare A and B, whether you're in Oregon or in Massachusetts. But the supplements, if you were in an Advantage plan and you're out of state, you might not be able to find a doctor in network. You'd be on your own. No insurer covers anybody out of the country,
Oh, wow.
except for like maybe going to an emergency room.
Okay.
If you're going to travel out of the country and you feel like you want to insure yourself, you'd have to call your carrier and ask them for a special kind of rider to lay on top of for travel purposes, because Medicare is not going to approve or pay for you to go see doctors in Europe.
Okay.
Okay.
And normally I think if you're just
Kind of like Verizon when you have to, if you want to make international
$10 a
phone
day.
calls.
I think normally if it's as long as you're not like expatriating, you only go to if it's an emergency.
Usually.
So, say something happens when you are traveling, can you then arrange for supplemental coverage, or does that have to
I
be
don't know the answer.
predetermined?
You,
Okay.
you might be able to call your company back in the U.S., but you'll be subject to whatever their rules and
Sure,
regulations
sure.
are.
Right,
That's
right.
that all sits kind of outside of Medicare.
The main point here is don't go it alone. There's a lot to know. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So find somebody that is reputable and knowledgeable to help.
And be careful of brokers.
Yeah.
There's a
Mm.
lot of people that are selling insurance and saying, I'll help you navigate this, but they're doing it and they're going to steer you a
There's a
certain way.
profit motive involved.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they may not be the best
Right. That's why
resource.
they don't necessarily like Shine counselors.
Right. Well, we like Shine counselors,
you
and we
do.
particularly like you, Art, because you came in and gave us all this great advice and took the time to do that. And we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's a big topic.
It
We,
really
we may
is.
revisit it at some point
We
in the
might
future,
have to, yeah.
as well as Social Security. So,
Ooh.
yeah, that'll be another fun one. So, apologies to anyone outside the country that this doesn't apply to, but we really needed to cover it. So, all right, thanks again for coming in today. And Janet, anything you want to mention before we wrap up?
Nope, I think we're all set.
All right, until next week. This is the 60 Plus Podcast. Share it with a friend or an enemy. I don't care. And until next week, I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.